History's oversized guns ever since their initial conception. Weapons that use gunpowder have come in a variety of shapes and sizes. One of the main aims of firearm design over the years has been to make the weapon smaller and easier to handle. There are some cases, however, when this is put aside and the weapons are made with anything but subtlety in mind. Here are a few examples of oversized guns used throughout history. Punt guns, one of the most extreme examples of an oversized firearm, comes not from the battlefield but from civilian hunters. Shotguns are specially designed to shoot a spread of pellets, which is ideal for hunting birds in flight. A punt gun takes this simple idea to a new level. Utilized in the 19th century, the punt gun is a gargantuan shotgun that resembled an artillery piece rather than a hunting weapon. It would be mounted onto the bow of a punt or small boat. These weapons varied in size, but could weigh upwards of 200 pounds, could well be over 10 feet in length, had a barrel diameter of 2 inches, and could fire over a pound of shot in a single blast, which was so powerful that the recoil could propel its boat back several feet. For comparison, a 12-gauge shotgun, already a large and powerful firearm, has a bore of less than 3/4 of an inch and contains about an ounce of shot per shell. For the most part, these punt guns were single-shot, muzzle-loaded pieces. The hunter would either use small poles or oars to quietly position his boat in an area where waterfowl, such as ducks and geese, were likely to congregate in large numbers on the water. Once enough birds had gathered, the hunter would fire the gun, hitting up to 100 targets at once. Sometimes entire flocks would be wiped out in seconds, especially if there was more than one punt on the hunt. Generally, the hunter would sell his quarry, as the demand for wild game made large-scale hunting like this a very lucrative business. Because of these and other unrestricted hunting methods, the numbers of migratory birds began to drop in the late 19th century, causing concern among the growing conservation movement. State and federal regulations were put in place, including making this commercial style of hunting illegal, setting limits on the number of waterfowl permitted to be shot, and restrictions on the type of weapons that can be used. As a result, the use of the punt gun and boat became banned for hunting, and bird populations were able to recover. These guns may be illegal for hunting, but they are still legal to own in the United States. They're seen as a novelty and far too large for anything other than making a loud bang and hitting anything other than a stationary target. G's. Oversized training guns. During the Second World War, massive numbers of men joined the armed forces, many of whom were unfamiliar with handling firearms. The U.S. military needed a way to familiarize its new recruits with the weapons that they were going to be using in the field. A number of methods were used, including posters and training films showing the proper use of firearms. One training method was much more hands-on. The training aids were replicas of real firearms, but scaled up to twice the size. These would be made out of aluminum and would be hollow, making them easy to handle. These firearms were non-functional, but would still contain the inner workings of the weapon they represented, giving soldiers an easy way to identify the parts of the real weapon that would be issued later on. A number of training aids were created to help familiarize troops, including the first type, designated the device 3-3, which was an enlarged 1918 A2 Browning automatic rifle. It was soon joined by the M21, a double-sized Mon carbine, the M22, a scaled-up Montine 19 Browning machine gun, and the M24, which was an oversized Mon Garand, which also came with plastic rounds and a double-sized clip, which could be loaded to demonstrate proper technique. These training aids were used well into the 1950s, until they were phased out by newer firearms such as the M14 and Miscine assault rifles and the M60 machine gun. These newer firearms did have double-sized mock-ups made for training purposes, but these were to a much lesser extent than their Second World War counterparts, and the concept eventually faded from training protocol. The oversized training aids would eventually be retired from service, being either given to museums or making their way into military surplus shops, and eventually ending up in the collections of military enthusiasts as a fascinating part of all firearms history. Anti-tank rifles during the First World War. Tanks were introduced to the battlefield, forever changing the art of warfare. The original tanks were all but impervious to small arms fire and were able to roll over infantry-filled trenches with impunity. As a response, the race was on to create infantry weapons that could take out these new armored behemoths, leading to the creation of a new type of firearm, the anti-tank rifle. Many nations created some version of the anti-tank rifle, including the British Boys 55 caliber, the Japanese Type 97 Kunanashiki Judoho, the German Panzerbuchs 39, and the Soviet Union's single-round PTRD-41 and 5-round PRS-41 rifles, both of which fired the same 14.5x 114mm cartridge. There were similarities shared by all the types. These were large weapons, weighing between a manageable 35 pounds to the truly gargantuan 500-pound Mauser 2.8 cm. Schwerer Panzerbuch. They're also long, with barrel lengths alone often in excess of 4 feet, longer than many standard rifles. The ammunition fired by these weapons were also large, with 50 caliber being the starting point for bore dimensions, and only increasing from there. As can be imagined, the recoil would be horrendous, as many infantrymen's shoulders can attest. Generally, these weapons were not mounted on a vehicle, since they were designed for use by infantry. They would be carried on foot, meaning that the weapons would be crew-served, usually with a gunner and an assistant who carried extra ammunition and equipment. In combat, anti-tank weapons had a mixed performance. They were no doubt powerful, accurate, and had a long range. And some, such as the Soviet PTRS-41 and PTRD-41, caused havoc among German vehicles. As the Second World War progressed, however, more heavily armored tanks entered service, which were too strong for even the most powerful anti-tank rifle, rendering them obsolete for their original purpose. Instead of falling by the wayside, however, the anti-tank rifle spawned a successful spin-off, the anti-material rifle, or AM. While heavy tanks were, for the most part, impervious to a high-caliber rifle round, trucks, half-trucks, and other lightly armored vehicles were not. Anti-material rifles, such as the American Barrett Mighty II, are still in use today and are utilized to target lighter vehicles, as well as buildings, radar stations, parked aircraft, and any number of other targets. The Jazil musket oversized firearms are not always the product of recent times, but can be traced back to much earlier eras of firearm technology. In large portions of Central Asia, the Jazil became a fixture of the warriors of the region. Jazil are muskets, either matchlock or flintlock, their most distinctive feature being the highly curved stock, which gives it its distinctive shape. Unlike standard muskets used during the era by European powers, Jazils were handmade according to the personal style of the gunsmith. They can also be highly decorated with metal inlays, gemstones, and any number of other adornments. Though they can come in all manner of shapes and sizes, generally Jazils are long, with a much longer barrel length than a typical musket. This gave the weapon a much greater range and accuracy compared to its counterparts, such as the British Brown Bess. There are some accounts that place the range of the Jazil at 500 meters, though this may be an exaggeration, with a 250-meter range more typical. This still outranges a European musket by about 100 meters. The long barrel meant that it was often employed with a barrel rest to maintain accuracy. In the mountainous terrain of Afghanistan, tribal warriors would fire from elevated positions, resting the barrel on rocks. Jazilis wore military weapons and fired military-sized musket balls, roughly equivalent to 50 or 75 caliber, much larger rounds than were found in the other long-barreled hunting firearm. This meant that not only was the Jazil capable of long-range shooting, but also packed a devastating punch. They also weighed between 12 and 14 pounds, much heavier than European muskets, which are usually between 8 to 10 pounds. This would make them more unwieldy, but the increased size reduces the recoil, which helps improve accuracy. In 1842, during the First Anglo-Afghan War, warriors wielding Jazils obliterated a British column as it withdrew from Kabul. Firing from an elevated position, the Afghans were able to pick off the British, who were powerless to fight back. Of the 16,500 soldiers, camp followers, and their family members who set out, only a single British soldier and a handful of sepoys escaped, a testament to the tenacity of Afghan warriors and the power of the Jazil. When the survivor, an assistant surgeon named William Bryden, reached the safety of Jalalabad, some 90 miles from the scene of the massacre, he was asked where the army was, to which he replied, I am the army. Throughout the long history of firearms, some weapons have gained renown for their reliability, accuracy, or overall utility. Some have become well known for their participation in landmark historical events. These are just a few of the firearms, however, that have left a mark, not necessarily because of their function, but for their ridiculous proportions and scale. Just as these tools were invaluable for soldiers, modern tools can help us master our tasks and prepare for the future. This is where our partners at InVideo AI come in to help. InVideo AI is the world's most used AI video creator, with over 10 million users across 150 countries. It's the only AI video creator that truly puts you in control. It acts as your sidekick, assisting with scripting, editing, and finding relevant footage. And then with simple text prompts, you can effortlessly bring your ideas to life. Check this out. I just typed some instructions into InVideo AI to create a video about the history of weapons. Then, after waiting for just a couple of minutes, InVideo's AI created this. Hey, simple history viewers! Ever wondered how humanity went from chucking rocks to piloting drones? Well, strap in, because we're zooming through the history of weapons in just 2 minutes. InVideo AI made this video from a short and straightforward prompt. Now imagine what you could make with more detailed prompts. You can then add subtitles, or you can edit the videos via the edit command box. You can start creating with InVideo for free and create up to 4 videos. And if you like it, you can upgrade to a paid plan for as little as $20 per month to remove watermarks and create unlimited videos using millions of royalty-free clips. Click the link below and use code SIMPLEHISTORY50 to get twice the number of video generation credits in your first month. Thank you, InVideo, for sponsoring this video.